As you noted, last week we finalized and signed the guidelines document for the Nuclear Consultative Group, or the NCG, which was a huge milestone after 1 year of operation of the NCG, which was, as you know, was launched by the Washington Declaration by our President Biden and President Yoon in April 2023. So over the year, we established many work streams, over 10, to really strengthen and augment our extended deterrence relationship with South Korea. And we approached it as extended deterrence as equal partners. And the deadline we set for ourselves, the goal we set for ourselves, as Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-ho mentioned in December at our second NCG, was to complete the guidelines document after 1 year. And I'm very proud of both teams that were able to draft, agree on, and then sign the guidelines document just last week in June. We completed in June and then signed in July when President Yoon was in Washington, D.C. And what the guidelines document does is institutionalize the NCG. So it sets it up as an enduring body for work streams that will make progress as we continue the NCG. The principals meetings of the NCG are really to review all the hard work that the teams do between the principals meetings. So most of the hard work you don't see. It's behind the scenes, and that's what makes actually, I think, our extended deterrence relationship real, because we're making progress and the work is being done by professionals in our Ministry of Defense, the Department of Defense. It's interagency, so we have the YPO, the NSC, and our state departments and MOFA as well. And so the guidelines document is not the end, it's the beginning, and sort of sets up the NCG as an enduring body, and we have momentum that'll carry a lot of the work that we've done over the past year forward for the next several years. Well, let me be very clear. So only the United States President can authorize the use and employment of U.S. nuclear weapons. However, when we have extended deterrence relationships, we need conventional support from our allies. We will need to coordinate what that response will look like. So the U.S. President would authorize any employment or response of nuclear weapons. But when I say equal partners, what we have done is improved our ability to coordinate the conventional support, particularly as we develop concepts for conventional support for U.S. nuclear operations that involve the ROC or include the ROC. And we approach those as equal partners as we, for example, if nuclear employment, God forbid, were ever have to be authorized and executed by the U.S. President, in a Korean Peninsula situation, for example, we might need, or the ROC might contribute conventional forces. If it's through U.S. bombers, the ROC might contribute or have to contribute escort aircraft, fuel, tankers. If might have to use conventional capabilities to degrade air defenses. And so there's a whole suite of conventional support that is required for nuclear operations. And as we approach that, we do so with ROC inputs and as equal partners. I think the way I would describe that is we commit to a regular rotation of strategic assets. As you've seen in the past year, we had the USS Kentucky. For the first time in 40 years, we had a US SSBN pull into Busan. It was the first Ohio-class SSBN ever to pull into Busan. We had a B-52 land on Peninsula for the first time. It's hard to land a B-52. They require long runways. They're very wide. They have wing wheels, and so being able to show that we can land a B-52 on Peninsula is a strong signal of our commitment and our a suite of regular rotations of strategic assets that includes SSBNs. It includes the B-52s. We do regular BTFs in the region. I hosted my ROC counterpart at Vandenberg Space Force Base last year, where we witnessed the launch of, or a test of a Minuteman III. So this is part of regular commitment, and we basically, in the last year, did a rotation or visibly displayed each leg of the triad in our interactions with our ROC counterparts. And so what we've committed to with the NCG is regular visibility and rotation of strategic assets as part of the NCG work. But I also want to, I think one thing that's important to note is that strategic asset rotations, which are very visible, make for nice photo ops. But for example, with the USS Kentucky, an SSB in port is not doing what it's primarily designed to do, which is to be able to respond invisibly on patrol in the event of nuclear employment. Just as North Korea's capabilities continue to expand and diversify, so too do our capabilities. We've done a lot, very publicly on our nuclear posture, ROC conventional capabilities, and as the threat evolves, so too will how we think about concepts of conventional support for nuclear operations and how to best deter DPRK. And I am very, very confident that our capabilities, our joint concepts, are more than sufficient and will be sufficient to meet that evolving threat. I think there's a lot in that question. Number one, I would say the Washington Declaration was very explicitly the NCG. The United States committed to launching and establishing the NCG, but President Yoon committed to adhering to South Korea's non-proliferation obligations under the NPT. And I understand the polling, but I think if the question were asked properly, which is, do South Korean public support pursuing nuclear weapons, if it meant that it would be in violation of the NPT, it would probably face sanctions. So all of the amazing exports that come out of South Korea, cars, Samsung phones, which are the sort of the admiration of the world, would take a significant hit, and it's not like you can snap your fingers and get nuclear weapons overnight. It will take time against North Korea that already possesses nuclear weapons, which would make South Korea very, very vulnerable in the period where it's pursuing nuclear weapons and becomes an international pariah when it's essentially in violation of the NPT. I think the support for pursuing nuclear weapons, when framed in how it would go, would and does fall drastically. We've seen other polling where when confronted with the cost of what pursuing nuclear weapons would be for South Korea, that's why the U.S. government position is South Korea's security is best achieved by committing to its non-proliferation obligations and receiving the extended deterrence guarantees from the United States. And I think the South Korean government has done a good job explaining that. I think the Ministry of National Defense and MND colleagues have been very have explained, I think, why the NCG has provided assurance that the United States not only commits capability but also is willing to abide by the extended deterrence commitments that we make. And so the U.S. government and the Department of Defense, I think, believes that South Korea's security, our joint security, is best achieved with the extended deterrence relationship that we have and not by an independent pursuit of nuclear weapons by South Korea.